Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Mr. Farrell yield for a couple questions?
Will you yield? Mr. Farrell, yield.
Speaker.
Thank you, Denny. A couple of questions on education. The $350 rebate checks going out conveniently right before election time, they total how much? 410, is that correct? 410 million?
Yes, 410 million, yes.
And any idea on how many, as I understand, it's just families with school-aged children, correct?
Yes.
So any idea on the processing? How many checks that's going to be? Do we have a number? How many families in New York will get this convenient check right before the election?
No, we don't have a precise number yet.
Okay. Any idea on the processing cost of the 410? Because I understand that they're going to be mailed out because you know what, they're not going to be done electronically, correct?
Yeah.
Any idea on the cost?
No, we don't.
No idea.
We don't have it.
Okay. Any thought in this budget as you know, I see here that the Assembly One House increases the governor's restoration of gap elimination adjustment. Certainly an issue that every one of our schools is dealing with throughout the whole state. It increases it, the restoration, by $43 million for a total of $366 million. That's to offset the permanent gap elimination adjustment. But we still have $1.28 billion remaining. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was there any thought that maybe, since we were sending out $350 checks to people with school-aged children, that it might have been more economical and more beneficial to send that $410 million directly to the schools of New York State and have an immediate direct impact on the gap elimination adjustment?
In this budget, we've raised, as you said, we've raised the amount of money we're putting in. We're putting in additional money. But the other deal was done last year.
Yeah.
We're moving forward.
Except for the money's going out this year. So last year, that's another small question. Last year, when this deal was done, there was no real money appropriated last year for the $410 million, right? It was just sort of a budget item, but no appropriation behind it.
Right, yeah, because you don't do an appropriation then.
Right, which makes sense. But this year...
But it's in this one, yes.
So this year there has to be an appropriation.
Yes.
Because $410 million is heading out the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess my point there, well, that's fine. Thank you on that, Denny. I appreciate that. The Smart Schools Bond Act, it increases the bond amount by $317 million for a total of $2.31 billion. That's the numbers we've had. I hope they match up with what you folks have.
Yes.
Okay. Does that, I heard you mention a little while ago now when you were talking about state debt and our limit, our bonding limit, everything else. How much does that increase our state debt? Is it directly $2.3 billion or?
It's zero.
Okay.
But we're not doing it this year. It's zero, and it's because we're not doing it this year. We're putting it in here as an obligation, but we're not actually going and bonding
In this
cycle.
Budget year, 14-15. So there will be a referendum in November for the people.
We will do it in 2016.
Right. Okay. So the people will decide in November whether they agree to the $2.3 billion.
That's right.
So in 2016, is it an increase of $2.3 billion directly, or is that spread out over a number of years?
$1 billion. $1 billion in 2016.
Okay. And then the other 1.3 is obviously in outlying years, but is it long-term or a few short?
Yes, long-term.
Okay. So there is a direct increase then. I guess it's difficult to tell because we're retiring some debt and picking up other debt.
It's going down and up.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. Can I just spend a minute on full-day universal pre-K and universal K? One of the things that many of us have talked about as we talk about UPK is that we don't have universal K here in New York State, and it looks like there's some language here that allows school districts to that are converting kindergarten into full-day K to access funding in this budget.
Yes, we're
to do
giving
that.
them funding to do that.
So in a way, that takes care of our universal K problem if these schools do that. But it's not really mandated universal K.
No, it's not for those who want.
Okay, is it the entire state can
Yes,
take
we're giving it, it's statewide,
Okay.
including New York City.
Now, it says in the first year $100 million will be provided, right, in year one,
Yes,
which would be this budget cycle, 14, 15?
yes.
Okay. And what has the governor proposed already? Is that $100 million in addition to what the governor has proposed?
That's the number the governor proposed. We
Just-
just moved it and used it differently.
Just a flat $100 million.
Yes,
Okay. And then after the fifth year, it will total $1.5 billion.
right.
Can you clarify for me, is it $1.5 billion over 5 years, or when we hit year 5, it'll be $1.5 billion every year?
Yeah. It would be an accumulative number. It would keep going, and that's how much we will have spent, 1.5.
At the end of 5 years. So we're 100 million, 300, 400, whatever,
Yeah.
the next couple years.
Right.
But we have nothing projected out that far, do we? In the multi-year school budgets, do we have anything projected out? Like what are you projecting in 14, let's say 15, 16?
Well, we're projecting, we're saying that we'd like it to be out that way, but as you know, we can do it, but it doesn't hold us. Because what we're trying to do in this is to respond, because some people are concerned that we'll only do it this year, but we won't do it next year. So we're writing this in such a manner that it will tell them that it is our commitment to continue this for 5 years.
Right, so it ramps up. Clearly, it's going to have to ramp up 100, 200,
Yeah.
400, 500.
And that's how much it's going to come to, yes.
But still, at the end of 5 years, we're only into this 1.5 billion.
Yes.
See, and the problem I have with that is you may have heard the same thing I heard. We heard a governor at the budget address say that it was 500 million. That was wrong, by the way. It's about 1.6 billion per year to have UPK, and there's many people that have estimated that, but also the Commissioner of Education has estimated 1.6 billion per year. So it seems like we are woefully short to the tune of about 1.5 billion per year. So if we get into this 5 years, we're about $7 billion shy of where we need to be.
Well, we have experience. As we know, our speaker has been very strong for pre-K. I think it's 1998 we started. And a matter of fact, last year, or the last fiscal year, we got money back from New York because they couldn't spend it. Because any money we gave you in previous pre-K, if you didn't use it for that, you had to give it back. So we've always had a problem with not everybody wanting it. Not everybody who want it can find space to put it in. So what we have done is we've looked and said, based on our previous experience, it's going to take more, because it's gotten fired up in the last couple of months. We still think it's going to be hard to find places. It's still going to be problems, even though the one that may really cost is the doubling it up and making it instead of half day, full day. That one cost. We believe these numbers will work. And if it needs more, I think we're prepared in future budgets to deal with that.
Oh, I certainly respect your opinion, Denny, as always. It just seems like there's a huge gap, even between what the mayor of New York City is saying.
Yeah.
I mean, he's saying about 500 million. That's just New York City.
Yeah.
And they have the Commissioner of Education saying 1.6. It just does seem like we are way far apart
Well,
in the
let's
funding.
remember, you've noticed that there's some things you always start high, right? When you're trying to get that 100, you ask for 3, knowing it'll drop to 1.
Yeah.
So we're saying, no, we're going to give you what we know. New York Assembly, New York Legislature knows what goes on because we're not new to this. And we just believe, based on what we know, that this will do and it will work. And if we're wrong next year and everybody comes rushing, Next year, we got another shot at it.
Well, I'd say get ready, because they will come rushing if we only
I hope so,
provide
because
$100
that
million.
means we'll be doing what we should be doing.
What is the total education budget? About $25 billion, I think?
It's a 2-year budget. and
Okay.
22.2 in the 2 piece, in the 1 piece. Yeah, for 14-15, it's 22 point something.
Yeah, so 22.2, you're talking K-12, that's basically 13 grades. So if you just divide that out, I mean, you're over $1 billion per grade year, about 1.2, 1.3, that's just quick math, but you're at least that
sounds
much
right.
per grade. I mean, really, just simple, right? I mean, if you're 22 billion and you only have 13 grades that you're spreading that over, that's over $1 billion per grade. Now you're adding a grade, that's what you're doing if you have UPK. That's where I come up with saying, $100 million is woefully short of where we need to be. And the reason I say that, Denny, is that I'm just fearful that if Albany does not find a way to do this, if we have a mindset to do it, then it is yet again just another huge unfunded mandate on municipalities that they're
No, there's no mandate, because if they don't ask for it, they don't get it. We're not forcing them to do this.
But then it's not universal pre-K.
No, it is universal because they have the choice to make it universal. So we're just saying it's up to them if they want it,
Okay.
which is how it's been for the last couple
So
of
it's,
years.
okay, all right, I'm with you. So it's selective universal pre-K is what it is. You
No,
can
it's
choose to be
universal.
part of the universe.
The universal TV with the plane flying around, right? It's universal and the movies are good.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Denny. I got one more quick question. I'm probably almost out of time. Just very quickly, I may have missed it. I apologize. It was talking about the regional economic development situation.
Yes.
Yeah, and I apologize because I caught part of that. The Assembly proposes to cut $150 million out of that.
Yes.
Where's that $150 going? Any idea?
I listed a whole bunch of areas over there. We put that in. This is right? This is the right one? Oh, that's the wrong one. We did restore community initiatives, 50 million. Restore New York Advanced Manufacturer Career Operating Program, 2.5 million. To regional economic development councils, and we also did advanced manufacturer career opportunity programs, and Back to Work New York jobs programs, and small business revolving loans of $25 million.
Okay. Denny, thank you. I appreciate your indulgence on this and all your work and effort, and Mr. Oakes as well. I know you guys put in a lot of long hours sitting through those hearings. Thank you, Denny. Mr. Speaker, on the bill.
On the bill, Mr. McLaughlin.
Just briefly, I'm certainly very focused, as we all are, on education, and I do worry when I hear things like $100 million, knowing full well that that's not going to be nearly enough. If we are intent on doing pre-K, which plenty of us agree with, I just think we need to make sure we have our arms around what the real number is going to be. I also think that it would be much more economically beneficial to the schools and to the people of New York, since that rebate check of $350 is going to those that have school-aged children. I would highly recommend we rethink that and send the $410 million to the school districts directly and fill that gap elimination adjustment. I think the schools would applaud that, the students, the parents, the teachers. I think that is the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin.